What's up, everybody? It's your boy, the real Peyton P here. It's like towards the end of March right now. Sledding season this year been a little slower pace than usual. Haven't gotten quite as many riding days in. There's been some great days. Snow's been pretty good this year, but like really slow start, a little bit hit or miss. Then we had a bunch of, warm temperatures for a while, some spring, and wanting to have a really good spring. And so one of the things I've been wanting to do is, try out some different sled setups. And so I've wanted to do suspension a lot. And so I was talking to Kyle Saxton, his guys, Suspension Proz out in Wisconsin. And they're gonna do a Revalve and a spring package for my stock velocities. I wanna take advantage of that. I looked at a lot of different options, and as far as like quote unquote bang for the buck, it looks really sick. And at the same time, I'm gonna go ahead and convert my Pro over to a Khaos. So I got a little stack of parts to kind of get a little bit of a different setup going. And I'm gonna go ahead and tackle that. So anyway, we're gonna get the skid out of here, get these shocks out of here, and get them in the mail today and send them out. Should have them back in about a week and a half. Check it out, see what it's all about. All right, so we got all the shocks out, and that was kind of a pain in the butt. That's the first time I've actually dropped a skid. I mean, definitely worth noting, like some of these bolts are definitely kind of corroded. So it'll be cool to basically take the skid apart, put it back together, and definitely, I don't have the best toolkit. A lot of like, not very good organization and a lot of random stuff, but definitely gonna have to put some time and energy into getting an organized toolkit, because can't be wrenching on stuff just with a bunch of mismatched stuff. It just doesn't work. So looking forward to that.
All right, so we've got all 4 valving stacks torn apart here. So we're gonna work from left to right. So on the left side here, these are our ski shocks. So we've got our ski shock rebound and our ski shock compression. So we set them up side by side like this so that when we're building the valving stack, we can make sure that the stacks are exactly the same on the ski shock so that there's no mistakes and there's no imbalance on the sled. So here we have a rear track shock compression, rear track shock rebound, front track shock compression, and front track shock rebound. Now throughout these valving stacks, we can see that there's all different outside diameters of shims. And then what you can't see is that within these outside diameters, there are different thicknesses of shims. Each of those thicknesses, coupled with shim placement, controls oil flow through our pistons. So when we rebuild these valving stacks, we're gonna significantly change the flow of oil through our pistons and change the way that these shocks work. All right, so we have 4 built valve stacks. You can see the compression side of the valve stack on our ski shocks. And then you can see the rebound side of the valve stack on our track shocks. Now this customer has a Pro RMK and he wants his front track shock to be Khaos length. So we pulled this 1/4-inch spacer out of the front track shock that will let the shaft come a 1/4 inch farther out of the shock, and that will bring this shock to Khaos spec so that he can put his rails and his limiter straps on to make his Pro into a Khaos. Now over here we have all of our internal parts. Floating pistons with the old O-rings here. We're gonna replace these O-rings. We're gonna make sure that all of our internal components are all cleaned up. We're gonna check all of these components over, make sure that we didn't miss any damage on any of these parts. And once that's done, we are going to put these shocks back together. All right, so these shocks are all done and ready to go. We have revalved them, rebuilt them, and they just got out of the hot tank, so they're all clean. The last thing that we're gonna do before these head out the door is just do a little bit of branding on the reservoirs, just a small, subtle brand. And here are our springs versus the stock ones. You can see these ones here, these are the ski shock springs. You can see these stock ones, how light they are. The coils are so spread out and the core diameter is so small on those. Same story on the rear track shock. The factory spring is a little bit heavier than the ski shock springs, obviously, but we still have a lot of distance between these coils, and this core diameter is pretty small in comparison to our spring.
All right, so check this out. We got a package in the mail. This right here. All right, so shocks came back here. Work order here. So right here we got the, this looks like the rear track shock right here. And look at that. Beefy coil, branding, Suspension Proz. Sick. All right, so got my shocks back from Suspension Proz, and those guys were just awesome. And we're getting some late season snow. It's pretty spooky out there right now. But yeah, so we're gonna get the sled put back together, and then we're gonna get out and get a couple rides in this week. And so we'll see kind of how everything turned out. Noticeable difference in the whoops, like doubling the little whoops or just going faster through them. A lot better. The rear skid's fairly stiff. The front ski shocks for sure, I can already tell. So we'll keep riding and get a little bit more feedback. All right, so just got wrapped up first ride. We did a Khaos conversion, so extended limiter strap, Khaos rails off of a 23, and then sent the velocity shocks out to the boys at Suspension Proz. Didn't really know what to expect, but you know, the snow wasn't really deep enough to really feel the difference of the Khaos skid. You could feel the front end wanting to lift a little bit more. Definitely, like in the whoops, you could tell a huge difference. On those little jumps, you could tell a big difference, no bottoming out, a lot of control. It definitely felt all day like the sled was easier to put on edge. So I'm definitely happy with it, and I'm really looking forward to riding it more.